Good afternoon. My name is Chelsie Glaubitz Gabiou. I am the president here at the Minneapolis Regional Labor Federation of the AFL-CIO. We represent over 175 local unions and 80,000 union members in this region. We also work on behalf of workers throughout this entire region. And we're here today to talk about our endorsement of the January 23rd action, the Day of Truth and Freedom. No work, no school, no shopping throughout our communities. It is a tragic amount of circumstances that has brought us here and to this position today. Working people across our community are afraid for their lives. We are working with many families who have already been detained. Most of these families have been detained while they were on their way to work or on their way home from work. This is leading to our families, union and non-union, workers in our community having to make gut-wrenching, life-altering choices about whether or not they're going to go to work so they can put food on the table, or whether they're going to stay home and stay safe and stay alive. These are life-altering choices that our families are having to make. We are trying to support our families who feel like it is unsafe to go to work. We're trying to support our families that have been detained. We're trying to support our frontline workers who are having ICE in their schools, ICE at their bus stops, ICE at the airport. We are here trying to support all of those. And it hasn't been enough. So that is why we're calling for widespread community support, widespread community solidarity on Friday, January 23rd, on our Day of Truth and Freedom. First, I'm going to have you hear from one of our union leaders, Greg Namacher of SEIU.
Thank you, Chelsie. My name is Greg Namacher, and I am the president of SEIU, Local 26, a union that represents 8,000 property service workers, janitors, security officers, airport passenger service workers, window cleaners across the 7-county metro area. We're here because our local has been impacted very directly by this ICE occupation of our communities. We have lost over 20 members to these abductions by federal agents, often without warning, often without any due process. If the declared purpose of these detentions is to take hardened criminals off the streets, it's not working. We know of no serious previous crimes committed by any of these members. What it has successfully done is to break up families, to disappear loved ones who for hours and days often don't have any idea where their family members are and often have no access to legal counsel. If the declared purpose is to help US-born workers get higher wages, which is sometimes what we're told, it has had the opposite effect. How so? Here's just 2 examples. One janitor at a non-union company spoke out publicly at a press conference in the Twin Cities a couple of months ago about wage theft allegations. And this press conference and these allegations resulted in the back pay for hundreds of US-born workers, getting them actual increase in wages. That janitor, however, was detained by ICE, sending a chill throughout all those who want to speak up in non-union companies where the employers are abusing their rights. Another example, a window cleaner was a leader of strikes 4 years ago to win a nation-leading safety program for their industry, where 3 people had died in the last 15 years in a very small industry of probably 60 workers. His sacrifice made all window cleaners in the Twin Cities safer, no matter where they were born, no matter what their citizenship status. He went to get his regular check-in at immigration, as he had many times before, following the rules, when ICE agents came out of a side room, detained him without explanation, and sent him to Mexico before his family, or he could even talk to a lawyer. He'd lived in this country for 30 years and was over 70. We have also seen workers attacked and harassed by federal agents while at work, and so this is an ongoing workplace safety issue for many of our members. So that is why we have endorsed this Day of Truth and Freedom on January 23rd. The community made the call for this day of no work, no school, and no shopping. Members started telling us in large numbers that they were going to honor that call of the 23rd. In fact, in just one meeting of over 100 members, maybe 150 members, 95% of them said they were planning not to go to work. Now, how each union, employer, and worker deals with this depends on specific language in their contracts and the rules and laws in each sector. Our local understands that some workers and bargaining units are going to be prohibited by law from striking. We are not telling workers to violate those rules, and will respect workers' individual choices on how they participate on the 23rd. But let us be very, very clear. We as unions will do everything in our power to protect the rights of all workers, union members or not, to express their right to free speech and free assembly on that day, the 23rd, in any way that they choose. Many died in the last 250 years to win those rights, and we will vigorously defend them. The good news is that many employers, in many cases already, are partnering with their employees and closing down entirely, or making sure that workers will be, that are going to be off are going to be accommodated. So there is a way to do this together with both businesses, unions, and workers together, so that we can stand and really make a clear statement to the world, and most importantly to the ICE occupation of our communities, that we stand together, and whether that is faith leaders, unions, or business leaders, together we stand and we want ICE out of Minnesota. Thank you. Now next, we get to hear from Natasha from the Minneapolis Federation of Educators.
Good afternoon. My name is Natasha Doctor, and I am the first Vice President of the Teacher Chapter of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators, and I'm proud to be here in solidarity with other labor leaders. Our children are our most precious resource, and as educators, it is our sacred responsibility to educate them. In the last few weeks, federal immigration enforcement agents have created hazardous and dangerous conditions in our community that threaten the very right of our children to receive an education. This chaos and harm caused by federal agents must stop. In this moment, our members, educators, are showing up with care and courage to combat this chaos. They are driving to work through tear gas, pivoting to provide online instruction, and working in partnership and solidarity with the community to provide critical resources such as food to families. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." As Dr. King describes, an injury to one is an injury to all. This belief is the bedrock of the labor movement, active solidarity. Right now, labor unions must stand together in a network of solidarity to demand that ICE leave Minnesota and stop inflicting this public safety hazard on our community. Our collective resolve and action that Minnesota is a place of hope and joy where immigrants are welcome will be what defends us in this moment. The January 23rd Day of Action is an important step for us to build on the solidarity we are witnessing throughout our city and state. MFE is proud to stand with many of our labor siblings and other community organizations in endorsing the January 23rd action, and we invite all working people to join us. Together, we will be a beacon on that day of what solidarity and collective action can look like in combating this horrific occupation we are witnessing. Next, I will turn it over to Krista.
Hi, my name is Krista Sarek. I am the president of Unite Here Local 17, which is the hospitality union in Minnesota that represents over 6,000 hospitality workers. At this point, well over a dozen of our members who work at MSP Airport have been abducted as they've gone to work. All of which have had authorization to live and work in this country, and all of which who have gone through an extensive 10-year background check and were passed that background check and were badged through the TSA. If this is about criminals, as this administration wants to claim, why are they attacking our members? Why are they going after members with no criminal history and who are authorized to work in this country? These workers are then being detained, and in several cases, they have been in custody, they have been handcuffed, they have been shackled, and they have been quickly moved out of Minnesota and are being detained in other states. Then they are being released and because ICE is realizing that they have made a mistake and that they are actually authorized to work here. Why are these members having to go through this terror? Why are they having to go through this embarrassment when they can and are legal to work in this country? This is needless and traumatizing experience for our workers. Workers all throughout our industry are being impacted by this. Restaurants, hotels, the airport, stadiums. This is not good for any of our membership. Local 17 will stand up and do everything that we can to support our members and our community. We believe that it is union's obligation to support our members and ensure that they are safe, and in these times they are not, and that is why we are endorsing the actions on January 23rd. Next up is David from ATU.
Got a lot of papers here, but I'm not going to read through all of them. My name is David Stiggers. I am the president of the ATU 1005 here in Minnesota. We represent the frontline transit workers that move this city. The deployment of thousands of federal immigration agents to Minnesota and the Twin Cities under Operation Metro Surge has torn at the fabric of our communities and our shared humanity. Minnesota's Attorney General and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul have filed federal lawsuits arguing this unprecedented surge is unlawful and unconstitutional. In recent weeks, we have seen inhumane and violent actions carried out in the name of enforcement. We had a 6-month-old baby on her way home with her family having smoke. It's so hard to go through. Had tear gas thrown in their car. They weren't protesting, they were just going home. We had tear gas thrown in their car, 6 months old. You had our friend and neighbor, Renee Nicole Good, who was standing up for members of the society and was gunned down brutally by an ICE agent in South Minneapolis. You had a man shot in the leg by a federal agent during an encounter in North Minneapolis. You have reports of ICE detaining individuals. You heard my colleagues. People at the airport can't even make it to work without ICE detaining them and taking them away for days on end without no knowledge of where their loved one is. You have tribal leaders reporting Native community members being abducted. Native community members. Think about that for just a second. Where are you taking them? Where are you taking them? Where's the morality in tear gas directed at a family? Where's the justice when a mother's life is taken? Where's the accountability when federal power overrides community safety and constitutional rights? Working people cannot stand aside while our neighbors are terrorized and our families are fractured, because those are our families. Those are our neighbors. Those are us. They are us. So the labor movement exists to defend dignity, justice, and human worth. So on January 23, the ATU Local 1005 stands in solidarity and endorses the call for a collective refusal to work in solidarity with immigrant communities, with protesters demanding an end to militarized raids, and with all of those who refuse to accept the normalized state of violence. This is a moment of conscience, of collective power. We recognize the seriousness of this action and the risks involved. We stand shoulder to shoulder with our members, with our labor allies, and with all who call for humane, just, and equitable treatment for every person in our communities. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all being here.
I'll take over now. So before we move to questions, I'm just gonna do one more thing about the sense of urgency of this situation. Over the last 12 hours, we've been in touch with families who have been detained in Texas. The conditions there are deteriorating rapidly. There is outbreaks of flu and COVID. They're refusing to separate the folks who are sick from the folks who are healthy. They're putting extreme pressure on folks who you have just heard have authorization to be in this country to voluntarily sign deportation orders to leave. These are people who are losing hope in these places because of the conditions. One of our family members who's detained down there was told if they were not feeling well, take an ice cold shower. These are the conditions that we are hearing about just over the last 12 hours of our folks who are illegally detained in these situations. Not to mention just what's happening in our neighborhoods and our communities. This is gonna have an economic, a huge economic consequence for our community that is going to take years to get out of. We need ICE out now. We need to be rebuilding our communities now. We need to be getting our workers who move this city, who teach our kids, who build our buildings back to work. Thank you. We'll take questions.
Renee.